immediate postpartum, oxytocin intramuscle. Sometimes one doctor gives oxytocin into the muscle after the baby is born.
You see how fear-based this is?
Hold on, let me give you examples. And the other hospital is saying that the oxytocin into the muscle has to go while baby's head is born in this particular moment. Don't ask, but this is how it is. And then the pediatrician comes in and rubs the back on the mom and sucks the nostrils out and cleans the mouth.
Is this routine? They don't even let the baby try to breathe on its own
unless we are proactive and
unless you say
no
please
to it.
don't.
Yes. Unless we're very firm on it and we have a pediatrician that we know is okay with sitting on their hands and just
unless
observing.
It's necessary.
Because I'm seeing many young neonatologist doctors who come in, like the new generation, and they're doing all of this routinely. It's much more difficult to negotiate with them than with the older generation.
Because they have not seen the physiology.
And the funniest part is the hat, because they rush in immediately with the hat, and they're really, really rushing. They're really nervous about it immediately. And the diaper. Oh my God, I can't even tell you how many battles I'm having with the nurses who are assisting the doctor, and they're all present for the birth. They don't come in after. They're there for the moment of the birth. And so the nurse rushes in to put the diaper on because they're also telling that this is a part of the thermoregulation, and also, well, the baby is gonna poop and pee on you, so we're just gonna put it, and then you stay
Good.
for
What about
an
the
hour.
microbiome? They need all that bacteria. What do they do? Do they cover the mom's rectum when the baby's face starts coming out? That's what I'm saying. That baby needs all that bacteria. All that bacteria gets implanted into their body to make it have the immune system, and this is all thermal regulation. The baby needs the body up against the mother with no interruption. Like I said, these are interventions that are completely unnecessary.
Sometimes when the woman doesn't have a hat with her, out of cloth, like a regular hat, they put a diaper on the baby's head for thermoregulation right there in the moment, in the water sometimes. I'm so glad I let it out.
A diaper on the baby's head.
Yeah,
that's
to
pretty
save
desperate.
them from thermoregulation, and then she's not sniffing in the smell.
That's an old school fallacy. It's not even relative.
I would say felony.
I mean, if the room is ice cold for the doctor's sake, maybe. But if the room, if the baby is
with temperature,
what's making the thermal regulation is skin to skin. What's making the thermal regulation is skin to skin. It's not, especially if the baby has hair. Lots of times that baby's hair in itself, that's going to keep the head warm. You know what I mean? Tell people this baby doesn't need a hat ever, But I mean, if they're concerned about it after the placenta's born, then that's when you can consider it. And it's only going to be for the doctor, because most moms they put the blanket over the baby's head just instinctively. Yeah. But until the placenta's born, don't mess with it. Just leave the baby alone. Let that hormone release. Let that mother... There's this amazing thing that happens after the baby's born, and if there's no hat on the baby, Carla Hartley used to say, no hatting, patting, or chatting. Be quiet, don't mess with the baby, and don't hat it, be respectful of that holy, sacred moment where not only a baby's being born, but a mother's being born and a father's being born. And each time this happens, if they have 10 kids, a baby's being born, a father's being born to this baby, a mother's being born to this baby. Yeah. And it's holy. Why do we inhibit it? Why do you think there's so much infant maternal mortality issues? A lot of this is because we don't know how to handle these moments. And like I said, if we start looking at these things the way God created them to be, I mean, these are miracles. How many things do you in a hospital where you're not sick and dying? It's politics. Politics gets women because they're in a spirit of fear, and unfortunately, it's taken into the hospital and the Pitocin and all this stuff. Now, if we would spend more time on prophylaxis, meaning prevention of these complications or these hemorrhages and all these things, we would see a lot more physiological births. We would see a lot more balanced postpartum, balanced labor and deliveries. But no, we want to pick up the pieces after they're broken. But if we start teaching women how to take care of themselves, how to think right holistically, holistic prenatal care, where you not only physically deal with people, because we're just not bodies, we're souls, mind, will, and emotions. We're spirits, which is who we are in our integrity. And we start talking and tending to women from that perspective, it's going to be a lot more effective and a lot more successful.
Much less complications.
Yes.
This is what is something that is not somehow not marrying in the heads of people of doctors in the medical community, who is all up for healthy babies and healthy women. Their motives are the same, but for some reason they view it. They truly believe that it is through intervention, through programming, through controlling.
But see, that's ego. If we just, I think if we'd start watching women and give them the freedom to not, one time I helped a woman, it was so sad. I think she'd had 4 or 5 babies in the hospital. And she kept saying to me in labor, what do I do? What do I do? Because she was so used to being told what to do.
Yeah.
Honey, you're doing what you need to do. It was amazing. She was being very instinctive, but she kept looking at me every now and then. What do I do?
Is it okay? Is it okay?
Exactly.
Am I doing it right?
And I said to myself, she's been programmed to think that she has to be told what to do. But yet she knew intuitively what to do, and she was doing it. It's, but it just really quickened to me that we've kind of disempowered women. They all of a sudden don't think that they know how. And they, on the contrary, I'm amazed. I've got videos of women that are just like phenomenal in the way they've never done it before, and all of a sudden their intuition, their instinct, because birth is so primitive. If we just give the women the space, if we just give them the belief that they've got it in them, that's what I spend most of my prenatal care doing. Then they flower, they open up like a rose, and they're so incredibly beautiful. I find myself crying sometimes because I'm blown away at the power and the incredible instinct that women have. And it's like some of the women that you think, oh man, I hope she can do it. I always love that, because I have to put those doubts in my own mind, because my belief can affect her birth. We have to be very careful about what we believe. Because what I do is I think this thought, and I think, okay, I'm putting this thought up on the shelf over here, because I'm not going to think on that. I'm not going to ruminate on it, because what happens is I can affect the outcome of her birth. So my ego can't get in the way, because I've seen women that I thought, every time I palpate her, she comes out of the, she goes, ow, ooh, ee, ah, and I'm thinking, she's going to be able to take birth, and she rocks it. She blows my mind, and I go, I'm never judging ever again. Yeah. This was when I was young in my calling. So you just can't allow your ego to get in the way. If we don't stay humble in this work, we're going to get in the way of so many things that and it'll cause women sometimes to completely be disarmed. They can't function, because they can sense there is something supernatural that happens with a woman when she's in labor. She can smell more, she can hear more, she can taste more, she can see more. And so she can feel everyone that's in the room. So if there's too many people in there, it's going to cloud her instincts. So it's best to keep it low key, keep it private, because who wants to be completely naked, literally, with your legs open wide in a crowd of people? Unless you're a little bit stage,
drama.
Yeah. Right.
Sometimes it's just one person that can create an entire shift. I had 2 births like this when my woman was entirely in her transition stage, completely the most vulnerable moment ever. And it was that exact position when she was like leaning back on her husband, legs widespread, just waiting for the pushing to start. And then I am next to her, facing my back towards the exit, and there's no extra people in the room, just the only ones approved by her. And all of a sudden I'm looking at her and I'm seeing her change. Something about her is shifting, and she's waking up. She's somehow getting out of that zone,
primitive space,
and she's like, Katya, who is this? And I'm
looking,
and I'm turning around, and I'm seeing a doctor figure standing in the doorway,
and she can feel his energy,
looking and watching.
And her crotch is wide open to him.
Oh wow! And I'm like, she felt it. She felt that gaze at her. And I'm like, quickly fixing the situation, asking them to leave or doing something about it, because that this is a sacred moment. And it is being interrupted without any words. Just with another cortisol energy.
That's one of the problems, is that we don't understand birth. And even if we do, we don't respect it. We think that we're there to save the day. We think that we're there, especially the people that come in with the epidurals, what do you call it? The anesthesiologists, they come in with like, here I am to save the day. They walk in with their ego and says, oh, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. I get
these
it.
People are the least
It's really scary.
Respectful.
Yeah, and lots of times it can disarm women and make them believe that they absolutely need, to be rescued. And then if they come in with that same attitude of I'm here to rescue you, all of a sudden that disarms the woman for the rest of her pregnancies, because all of a sudden she's got in her mind that, she can't do this without it. And so, and then, it's been proven too that, here they're giving them fentanyl. They're giving them fentanyl and morphine when they need to sleep them or they need to sedate them. And fentanyl is a highly addictive drug. And here they're, shipping it across the border from the cartel in the United States, and all these people are getting addicted. You don't think that affects that baby in utero?
Of course, that's proven. That's evidence.
That's what I'm telling you. It's like, what are we doing? And so when we disempower women and help them to believe that they don't and can't do this without drugs, what are we doing to that baby in utero? That baby can't speak in its own defense. Yeah. That baby can't say, wait, mom.
Life.
Yeah, and I'm not saying if you absolutely need it, it's not, you're evil. No, not at all. If you absolutely need it, but just to come in and say, I want a cesarean or I want to be sedated without even giving it any opportunity to be, when you know that you know that you know in your heart that it's what's best for you and the baby, not to.
And this can be only decided in the moment. I always highlight it for women who are like for example, in the Russian-speaking world. Very often they're like, during pregnancy, ladies, what do you think? Should I plan for an epidural or should I not plan to take an epidural? I'm considering taking a medicated or unmedicated birth, having it. And I always step in and I say, this is not something you can plan. Not something. It's a medical intervention. It has to be clinically assessed.
Well, but you know what's helpful? Is if a woman goes into the hospital already making up her mind that I'm absolutely not taking any drugs. If she says, I might, if I really need it, she will absolutely take them. I can almost guarantee, unless something happens to her in labor, which is unusual, if she gives
a doula happens to her.
A doula is one way. Another way, though, is to get in your mind that what's best for my baby, not just me. I'm not the only person involved here.
Yeah.
And if women love their babies and at least try and do without it, and try. Now, if she's in labor for 35 hours and she's exhausted and she can't take the pain because her pain threshold has been exhausted, that's different. But I'm talking about, someone that comes in and absolutely,
normal.
Yeah. I just think it's something we need to help them reconsider, because we want healthy individuals. We don't want babies that are predisposed to any kind of, poisons, basically. Poisons, and don't only come in the form of pharmaceuticals. It comes in the form of people walking in and saying things like, when you're in my hospital, I'm in charge. You're no longer your body, it's my body. No way. That is evil. That is transcending a holy event. That is usurping God's ways and God's authority and God's design and saying, I am God. And that is complete evil. I'm sorry if you're gonna, you probably will take that off. But
No.
But I can tell you that to me is just, that's why I can't usually do hospital births, and especially have with people with that kind of mentality, and especially if they're women, because women have a tendency to scare me sometimes, that I always want to ask them if they have the same body parts as we do when they're like that. I'm serious. It's like they're traitors. It's like, give me a break. It's just wrong.
To me,
it's ego. It's pure ego.
Yeah, I absolutely understand where you're coming from. This is what I believe in, what I choose for myself, what I chose from my birth, all of that. However, having worked in this field for over 10 years and working very closely to, may I say, one of the best doctors, I'm very lucky.
It's nice.
I really, really value these connections and these people because I've seen them at work and I've seen how they try to step outside of the protocol.
That's awesome.
How they try to make a difference.
That's what I love.
Believe, but they are a part of the system, and we are not equal here. We this is naive to think that we're like two equal parts. The medical community and the medical beliefs, if we want to call it in general this way, they are much bigger than us, you know. And so what I am constantly thinking about is the language in which we communicate these values and these priorities and these benefits to them. Because language, in my opinion, really, in my experience, really matters. If we continue shoving the ego into their face, it's shaming for them. I mean, if somebody would come to me and be like, oh, it's your ego that's not allowing you, I would get defensive. And I realize why they're getting defensive, because they're portrayed as demons, as evil, you know, not all, some of them are psychopaths and evil. I've seen such doctors, and I don't work with them. And I tell my women, this person is on the blacklist because this is a butcher. But there are many others who are not like these. They're good people.
They try their best.
They're all for having a safe birth and not having the woman hemorrhage and all of this. And I find that there is no bridge that are connecting these two worlds. And since there is no bridge, these people who try to do things more naturally, who try less interventions, they don't have enough backup to do that because they are going against their community.
Yeah, so, I know. I agree. I agree. Right? They're between a rock and a hard place. When you have doctors that are progressive, doctors that think outside the box, doctors that want what's best for mama baby instead of the other, they are between a rock and a hard space. And I love and respect them, and I always pat them on their backs and say thank you, because they're not very common. And I think they're getting more common in the United States, which I'm really excited about, because they're starting to see that midwives and home birth is not criminal. Because when I first started doing this 50 years ago, boy, I had to really build some trails that, and things are the way they are in my community, and because of the older generation kind of helped pave the way for the ones now that just go into the hospital and grab the gloves off the wall and act like they own the place, and I'm like, you guys, you better be careful and be respectful, because this is not your territory, and you got to ask, don't just grab some gloves and act like you own the place. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think little by little, we'll be able to see, especially if doctors really are not there for just, especially in the United States, just not there for the money and for the prestige, If they're there because they really, really love the women and really, really love the babies and really want to do what's best, they'll get this. Because I'll tell you something, one of the reasons that birth has changed in the United States and other places where it has changed is because the midwives and the doulas, it used to be just the midwives, because the midwives were the doulas. I don't usually have doulas at my births because that's what I'm used to. Yeah. But they started paving the way and helping them to see, and little by little, they ended up with the birth, the birthing rooms, all of a sudden they had the rocking chair and the wallpaper, but they still had the interventions, little by little they started letting go of the interventions and hiding the oxygen tanks and doing things like that, just so that it wouldn't affect the woman to think that maybe on a subconscious level, does she need that to give birth? Does she need the oxygen and all those bells and whistles over there in the corner? Does she need that to give birth? And so I say, cover that, because that makes them believe on a subconscious level that's she needs that. And so little by little they started getting, okay, birth isn't just overtly obvious. These things, we're not just dealing with bodies, we're dealing with the woman's spirituality, with her psyche, her mind, her will, and her emotions. And then whatever manifests in her mind, will, and emotions and her spirituality manifests through her body. So if you wonder why she's dystocia, she's in the middle of a dystocia, she stops contracting at 8 centimeters. Or she's at 10 centimeters and stops contracting. It's like maybe she just needs to rest. Well, no, we have to Pitocin, we got to pull out the cytotech, we got to pull out all these things, And I say, you know what? She needs to rest more than she needs to have a baby. Her body's slowing down naturally because it's telling us she needs to rest. Oh, we never thought of that. And then pretty soon they start seeing the midwifery, the classical midwifery way of dealing with birth, and it doesn't scare them anymore. But at first it's just like, no, we got to get the baby out, get the baby out, get the baby out.
Once the process started, it's linear in their mind.
Yeah, and linear and rational, but that's male. That's very male. When you think about in terms of intuition, if you think in terms of a birth that flows like a river, and that sounds really ethereal and kind of cosmic and woo-woo, but it's not that. It's like allowing a woman to have her space and having people there like a doula or a good nurse that helps guard. I feel like in a sense, on a spiritual level, doulas act and midwives act like a type of Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit comes to guard, to guide, to direct, to encourage, to bless, and so types and symbols, I really feel like if we look at ourselves more in the way of a holy convocation, a way in which we can behave ourselves instead of intervention, all these other things, push and pull and, make the baby come now within the 8 hours of, all women are different. She's processing. Maybe, the people in the room are disturbing her. Maybe she doesn't like the doctor that showed up for her that she hadn't planned for. Maybe the nurse over there in the corner is making her feel really uncomfortable. Maybe she's feeling, all these things that can get in the way because a woman is so hypersensitive. And allowing her to process, get rid of everybody in the room. Just have her and her doula, her and her doula and her husband or whoever wants to be there, she wants to be there. Be sensitive and give her time because it's sacred. And she will always feel that she never got to birth the way she wanted to if she was constantly being intervened with.
I feel like these are two worlds that I don't have the answer of how to marry them, because on one end there are protocols and the timing. Once she's admitted, she's on the clock. And these protocols were created.
What do you mean? What's the clock here?
Well, once she is admitted, and then it depends on the hospital.
And the doctor, or is it just...
the doctor and the hospital, how they view things. But many countries have this. Like, once she is admitted, you're on the clock because... and there is a whole bunch of factors, right? The cost of the insurance company to cover the bed, right? That she's occupying during her birth. The protocols that some doctors interpret as that, she has to dilate 1 centimeter per hour.
They follow the Friedman's curve here?
Sometimes, yes.
Do you realize how old school that is?
I do, and it's not even a good study.
Oh my gosh, it's not even
a study.
It's so old-fashioned. It's so old-fashioned. They don't even do that at all in the States. I mean, every now and then you find, every now and then you hear about it and you go, what?
I know.
How can that still be?
Yeah. And so, like, how do you marry those two worlds? This is, for me, it's like one of the mysteries of modern childbirth.
Slowly. It happens. Just have faith, keep doing your work, and slowly, but you have to, like you said, you have to figure out ways to do it, to make it matter. Because if you come in there and you're like me, I don't put up with it anymore. I can't even be in a hospital. I mean, I'll go there because I know most of the people there, and they welcome me with open arms. They hug me when I get there, and so I know how to be there, and I know the doctors that are better than others, when it comes to what I know these women need, or the midwives that are there that are better than others, because we know what these women usually want, and so you just have to slowly, and just keep at it. Just keep at it, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing in 50 years, after 50 years, if I didn't know it makes a difference. It's just slow, but sure. And that's why we try to make a difference by bringing these conferences, because hopefully it'll plant seeds. Hopefully it'll help people to understand and to see, the importance of these things. And like I said, slowly. Yeah, little by little.
Water shapes the stone.
That's it. Smooth the stone. Water smooths the stone. More water. It's holy.